Nicole Wells, after 15 years with Global Innovations, we're changing your job, Marjorie Thompson announced. Her voice held a hidden hint of happiness. She sat across from me in the small meeting room, with Denise from HR next to her. Both wore polite, sad expressions. "The company is moving in a new direction," Denise added, sliding a yellow folder across the table. "Your work has been good, but we're putting the research team under the product development group." I nodded, taking the folder without opening it. Inside would be the usual goodbye package: 2 weeks' pay for each year, health insurance for 3 months, and a list of job help I'd never use. "I understand completely," I replied, my voice steady. "These choices are never easy." Relief showed on their faces. They clearly thought I'd cry, argue, or get angry. After all, I was a 55-year-old woman being pushed out of the tech world where young people were valued more than experience. What they didn't know was that I had seen this coming for weeks, ever since a wrong email landed in my inbox last month. "We'd like you to clear your desk by Friday," Marjorie continued, feeling more confident because I seemed to accept it. "We'll need your key card, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be told this afternoon." My team, 6 smart engineers I had hired and taught over the years. The same team that helped me create the special software that now powered Global Innovations' main product, AccountSphere, used by over 40% of big companies. "Of course," I said, standing up. "Is there anything else?" They looked at each other, clearly surprised by how calm I was. Marjorie spoke first. "That's all for now. Thank you for being professional." As I walked back to my office, I passed the glass-walled meeting room, where the top leaders were gathered. Through the clear wall, I could see CEO Victor Lawson waving his hands excitedly at a presentation about money plans. This was the same Victor Lawson who had taken credit for my software at last year's big industry event, calling me only one of our research team members. I closed my office door and took out my personal phone, sending one text message: "It's happening. Friday is my last day." The answer came right away. "Perfect timing. Papers are ready. Dinner tonight to finish details." I smiled as I looked at the calendar on my desk. Today was Wednesday. Friday, I would leave Global Innovations for the last time. And Monday would be interesting. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan at The Summit, a fancy restaurant far from Global Innovations' main building. As the CEO of Future Systems, Global Innovations' biggest rival, Greg knew how to be careful. He had booked a private dining spot in the back, hidden by nice Japanese screens. "They actually did it," Greg said, shaking his head after we ordered. "I thought they might, but to fire the very person who made their main technology." "Victor never understood what I really created," I replied, sipping my water. "He saw the finished product, the way it looked, the sales potential, but the deep structure, that was just tech stuff to him." The funny part was almost too perfect. 3 months ago, I found out that the patent application for my special software had never been filed by Global Innovations' legal team. They said it was a mistake when I asked. They told me they'd fix it right away, but something about their answer felt wrong, making me check the company's internal files. That's when I found it, a plan to claim the software as company-made without giving credit to any specific inventor. They planned to push me out before getting the patent, knowing that ideas made by employees usually belong to the company. What Global Innovations didn't know was that I had already been working on improvements to the software in my own time, using my own equipment. Those improvements, which made the software 43% faster, weren't covered by my job agreement. I had quietly filed for a patent under my own name last month, with full records and dates that clearly showed the work was done outside company hours. The patent had been approved surprisingly fast, thanks to Greg's introduction to a top lawyer. "All the paperwork is done," Greg said, sliding a folder across the table. "As soon as you sign, Future Systems officially gets the rights to use your patent. The news release goes out Monday morning, announcing you as our new Chief Innovation Officer. I looked at the papers carefully, even though I already knew the main points. A big signing bonus, a lot of ownership in future systems, and ongoing payments from all products using my software. What do you think Victor's face will look like when he realizes what happened? Greg asked, unable to hide his happiness at the thought. I'm more worried about my team, I admitted. They don't deserve to be caught in the mess. Greg nodded. Already handled. We have jobs for all 6 of them if they're interested. Higher roles with much bigger pay. I signed the last page and closed the folder. In one smooth move, I had secured my future, protected my team, and gained recognition for my work. To new beginnings, Greg said, raising his glass. And to owning your own value, I added, clinking my glass against his. Thursday and Friday passed quickly, filled with exit interviews, handing over knowledge, and saying goodbye to coworkers. I stayed calm and professional the whole time, even as rumors spread through the company. Office assistants gave me sad looks in the hallways. Younger developers awkwardly asked if I'd write them recommendations on LinkedIn before I left. I wrote down everything carefully, every project, every password, every step, knowing full well that Global Innovations would soon find out just how much they needed me. My choice to leave detailed notes wasn't kindness, it was proof that I had acted fairly while the company had not. During my last exit interview on Friday afternoon, Denise from HR went through the usual list with robotic speed. You understand that any ideas made during your employment remain the property of Global Innovations, she stated, pushing a non-disclosure agreement across the table. Of course, I replied pleasantly. Anything made within the scope of my job, using company resources, during company time. I stressed those last words slightly, but Denise was too busy checking boxes to notice. And you confirm you have no copies of company secrets? I have taken nothing that belongs to Global Innovations, I confirmed truthfully. The patent was mine after all. As I packed my personal items from my desk, family photos, a collection of conference badges marking 15 years of industry events, the coffee mug my team had given me last Christmas, Marjorie stopped by, leaning against my doorframe as if by chance. I just wanted to check that everything's clear for your leaving, she said, watching me put things into a cardboard box. Crystal clear, I replied, wrapping a small award I'd received for the very software now at the center of my plans. The irony wasn't lost on me as I carefully placed it between layers of tissue paper. You know, Nicole, these job changes are never personal. Victor feels the company needs to move in a more youthful direction. I looked up, meeting her gaze directly. I understand completely. Business is business. Something in my tone made her pause for a brief moment. Uncertainty flickered across her face, but she quickly dismissed it. What could a soon-to-be unemployed 55-year-old woman possibly do? Will you be taking some time off? She asked, with a fake note of concern in her voice. Actually, I already have something lined up, I replied. I start Monday. Oh, surprise crossed her face. That's fast. Anything interesting? I smiled. Very. A leadership position. I'm quite excited about it. She nodded without really paying attention, already thinking about other things. Well, good luck with that. As I walked out of Global Innovations' glass building for the final time, keycard given back and personal things in hand, I took a moment to look back at the building where I'd spent 15 years of my career. On the top floor, I could see the executive meeting room lit up for an evening meeting, likely discussing how to share my duties among younger, less experienced, and much cheaper staff. Little did they know that in less than 72 hours, that same room would be holding an emergency crisis meeting instead. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed carefully in my new dark gray suit, a powerful outfit I'd bought just for this day. The Future Systems Company car arrived exactly at 7:30 a.m. to take me to their main building, where I'd start my first day as Chief Innovation Officer. The news release went live at 7 a.m., Greg told me as I settled into my new corner office with windows from floor to ceiling. Industry news sites are already picking it up. I've got the communications team watching reactions. The announcement had been made with smart planning. Future Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing software, welcomes creator Dr. Nicole Wells as Chief Innovation Officer. It explained my background, highlighted my role as the only inventor of the patented technology, and explained how Future Systems would use the software in their next line of products. Most importantly, it clearly stated that any company currently using the technology would need to talk to Future Systems for permission to use it going forward. At exactly 9:15 a.m., my phone lit up with the first text from my former team at Global Innovations. "Complete chaos here. What did you do?" It was from Miguel, my lead developer. I smiled, typing back, "Check your personal email. All 6 of you have authors waiting." Meanwhile, 8 miles away at Global Innovations headquarters, the planned Monday morning executive meeting was changing dramatically. According to Miguel's updates throughout the morning, Victor had arrived at the office to find the company's main lawyer and chief financial officer waiting at his door, both looking pale. The industry announcement had hit their inboxes at the same time, setting off immediate alarms. By 9:30 a.m., what should have been a normal start-of-week meeting had turned into an emergency crisis session. Board members were calling in remotely, the legal team was frantically checking my job contract and the papers about the software's creation. "They're pulling every file with your name on it," Miguel reported. "Someone just wheeled in all the servers from the research division for the tech team to look at." I could picture the scene perfectly. Victor walking around the meeting room, demanding answers from Marjorie and the legal department. The company's stock would already be reacting to the news. Investors hated uncertainty, and the announcement had created plenty of it. At 10:45 a.m., I received an email from Victor himself, the desperation almost coming off my screen. "Nicole, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss." I forwarded it to Future Systems' legal team without replying. By noon, the industry was buzzing with talk. Global Innovations stock had dropped 7% since the market opened, while Future Systems had seen a 12% increase. 3 different technology magazines had asked for interviews with me about the smart move that had shaken the accounting software industry. "How are you feeling?" Greg asked, stopping by my office as I settled in. "Validated," I replied honestly. 15 years of watching others take credit for my work, of being told I should be grateful just to have a seat at the table, and now, finally, recognition. My new executive assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Wells, the development team is ready for you in the main conference room." And, she hesitated, "Global Innovations CEO has called 4 times in the last hour." "Please let him know I'm in meetings all day," I replied calmly. "I'll have our legal team reach out to discuss licensing options later this week." As I walked toward my first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer, my phone buzzed with another update from Miguel. "Board just called emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When can we start?" By Tuesday morning, the full impact of my leaving had become clear to everyone at Global Innovations. Their main product, AccountSphere, relied entirely on my software to handle the huge amounts of data that gave it an advantage over competitors. Without permission to use my patent, they faced 2 equally bad choices: negotiate with Future Systems, likely at very high prices that would destroy their profits, or rebuild their main technology from scratch, a process that would take years and millions in development costs. "Victor has called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m., Miguel texted. It was his last day at Global Innovations. He and the rest of my former team would be starting at Future Systems next Monday. Rumor is they're going to try to sue you." I forwarded his message to our legal department, who replied almost immediately, "Let them try. Your records are perfect. Development logs, dates, personal equipment use, all clearly established. We've prepared for this." Meanwhile, I was settling into my new role with surprising ease. The respect I received at Future Systems was a sharp contrast to my last years at Global Innovations. When I spoke in meetings, people actually listened. My ideas weren't repackaged by male coworkers and presented as their own. My age and experience were seen as good things rather than limits. The engineering team is putting your efficiency improvements into action, Greg told me during our afternoon briefing. Early tests show a 51% performance boost, even better than we thought. I had several improvements I never shared with Global Innovations, I admitted. After I found out they were planning to get rid of my job, I saw no reason to give them my best work. Their loss, our gain, Greg replied with a satisfied smile. Speaking of which, the first request to use the patent came in this morning. Not from Global Innovations yet, they're still denying it, but from Data Flow Systems. They're worried about being caught in the middle. At 3:30 p.m., Miguel sent a detailed account of Victor's all-hands meeting. The CEO had tried to seem confident, assuring the staff that Global Innovations would strongly protect our own technology, but the worry in the room had been clear. Several employees had already updated their LinkedIn profiles, sensing the company's weakness. Marjorie looked like she was about to faint when someone asked directly if they'd failed to get the patent, Miguel reported. Victor cut the question period short after that. By Wednesday, the industry problems had gotten worse. 2 major clients had contacted Future Systems about switching from AccountSphere, worried about Global Innovations' ability to keep the product working without the software's creator. Our stock had risen another 8%, while Global Innovations continued to drop. I received a call from Denise in HR, the same woman who had slid my goodbye package across the table just days earlier. "Nicole," she began, her voice carefully professional, "I'm calling to discuss the, situation with your patent. We believe there may have been a misunderstanding about ownership rights." "I don't think there's any misunderstanding," I replied calmly. "My job agreement clearly states that ideas made on my own time, using my own resources, remain mine. The patent papers confirm exactly that." "Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options." "Any discussions would need to go through Future Systems' legal department now," I responded. "I'm sure they'd be happy to set up a meeting to discuss licensing terms." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Finally, Denise sighed. "I'll pass that along." That afternoon, I led my first formal presentation to Future Systems' board of directors, explaining our technology plan with my software at its center. As I stood confidently at the head of the table, not hidden in the back as I had been at Global Innovations, I caught Greg's approving nod. By Friday, just 1 week after I had walked out of Global Innovations for the last time, the company had entered full crisis mode. Their stock had fallen 23% from Monday's opening, causing worried calls from big investors. Industry experts were writing speculative articles with titles like, "Can Global Innovations survive the software crisis?" and "How one strategic mistake may cost a tech giant everything." Through my industry contacts, I learned that Victor had finally admitted how serious the situation was to the board. Global Innovations would need to either get permission to use my software from Future Systems, likely at very high prices that would ruin their profits, or completely rebuild AccountSphere without using any technology covered by my patent. "They've started interviewing for a new development team," Miguel informed me during our Friday video call, where we discussed his upcoming move to Future Systems. "Victor's claiming they can recreate the functionality in 6 months. I couldn't help but laugh. The original software took me 3 years to perfect, and that was with deep knowledge of the problem. Exactly, Miguel agreed. Nobody's believing the timeline, especially after your team posted their resignation letters simultaneously. The loss of knowledge is huge. That afternoon, Global Innovations lawyers finally reached out to Future Systems to start talking about possible agreements to use the patent. Our legal team, following the plan we had made, responded with terms that were technically fair but strategically painful. 3 times the normal industry rate, plus a public acknowledgement of my role as the technology inventor. They'll argue about the acknowledgement more than the cost, Greg predicted as we looked at the reply in his office. Victor's ego won't allow him to admit he pushed out the person who created their main technology. Then they'll have to rebuild, I replied, and every day they spend trying to copy my work is another day we extend our lead in the market. The following Monday morning, 10 days after my sudden dismissal, I led the first meeting with my newly formed innovation team, which included Miguel and the other 5 engineers from Global Innovations. The energy in the room was exciting as we planned the next version of my software. "This is how development meetings should be," commented Anita, one of my former team members at Global Innovations. "We spent half our time explaining basic ideas to executives who wouldn't listen anyway." "That's the difference between being valued and being seen as replaceable," I replied. "Here, your expertise is recognized." As we finished the productive session, my assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Wells, there's been a big development with Global Innovations. Their board just announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down, effective immediately." The news spread quickly. Within hours, industry publications were reporting that Global Innovations Board had lost faith in Victor's leadership after the patent mistake that threatened the company's main product. Marjorie Thompson was also out, along with the head of legal who had failed to properly secure the patent. That evening, I received an unexpected email from Richard Donovan, Global Innovations' newly appointed temporary CEO. Unlike Victor's desperate message from the previous week, this one was straightforward and respectful. "Dr. Wells, congratulations on your new position. I've been brought in to help Global Innovations manage the current situation. I'd like to discuss a fair agreement to use your patented technology. We're prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make appropriate amends for the mistakes of previous management. Would you be available to meet next week?" I forwarded the email to Greg, adding a simple note: "Phase 1 complete." His reply came quickly: "Beautifully done. The board is celebrating your first major victory for future systems. Looks like Global Innovations is finally learning an expensive lesson about valuing innovation and innovators." The following Monday morning, 3 months after my departure from Global Innovations, I sat on the stage at the National Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to give the main speech. The audience was full of industry leaders, technology journalists, and hopeful developers, many of whom now knew my story. "And now, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker," the conference organizer announced, Dr. Nicole Wells, Chief Innovation Officer at Future Systems and creator of the distributed processing software that has changed data handling across many industries. The applause was strong as I approached the podium. What a difference a few months could make! Last year, I had attended the same conference as part of the Global Innovations Group, seated in the back while Victor gave a presentation about his company's innovations. "Thank you," I began, looking at the attentive faces. "Today, I want to talk about owning innovation and the importance of properly valuing intellectual contributions, no matter where they come from." My presentation explained the technical parts of my software, but also touched on the bigger issues of recognition and respect in the technology sector. Without directly mentioning Global Innovations, I stressed the importance of companies protecting their innovators rather than seeing them as easily replaced resources. Afterward, during the reception, several young women engineers came up to me, seeking advice and guidance. One of them, barely 30, confided, "Your story changed how I record my work. I started keeping detailed notes of my development process on personal time." "Smart," I replied. "Your innovations deserve protection." As the evening ended, I checked my phone to find an industry news alert. Global Innovations had finally announced the agreement to use the patent with Future Systems, acknowledging me by name as the software's creator. Their stock had become stable, though at a much lower value than before my departure. 1 year to the day after being told to clear out my desk, I sat in my spacious office at Future Systems, reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under my leadership, the company had released 3 groundbreaking products built on my software, taking a lot of market share from Global Innovations and other competitors. A knock at my door interrupted my analysis. It was Greg, holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, setting the glasses on my desk. "The board asked me to share the news with you personally before the public announcement. Future Systems has officially passed Global Innovations in company value for the first time in company history." I smiled, feeling not triumph, but a quiet satisfaction. That's what happens when you value innovation properly. As Greg poured the champagne, my assistant delivered a sleek envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at Women in Technology's annual leadership summit. The topic, Owning Your Intellectual Value, How Proper Documentation Changed an Industry. "You've become something of an icon, you know," Greg commented, noticing the invitation. The story about the executive who didn't recognize what she had until it was gone has become a warning tale in corporate boardrooms. Richard Donovan, who had remained as Global Innovation's CEO after the crisis, had put in place big changes in how the company recognized and rewarded innovation. Their new rules on protecting ideas and recognizing inventors were reportedly based on the program I had started at Future Systems. "It was never about revenge," I said, raising my glass in a toast. "It was about recognition, about showing the industry that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit." "To proper recognition," Greg agreed, clinking his glass against mine. As the afternoon sun streamed through my office windows, I thought about my journey. At 56, I had finally found what had escaped me throughout my career. Not just success, but acknowledgement. My name was now permanently attached to the software that had changed an industry, exactly where it belonged.